Guys, welcome to another BrBpTV podcast. I'm your boy Miss Licks, and we are back again with another special guest, brothers and sisters. One of the individuals I think who is very much involved in the entrepreneurial capacity, not just in Dominica and of course in the United States as well, and probably elsewhere. Of course, we know him as none other than Mr. Andy Jolly. So how are you doing? Welcome to the BrBpTV podcast. What's up?
You know, it's a pleasure to be here finally. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's been a while since we've been planning to do this show, and we've had lots of things come up in between, but we're finally here. We're going to do this show and, really good exchange. And it took a little while, but we're here. We're going to get it done.
That's true. I like that vibration. Sometimes, when things are a little delayed, sometimes it has some sort of,
power behind it.
Some sort of behind it, man. Some sort of anticipation for something that would be very much great. And I appreciate you for being here in your busy schedule. You tend to be traveling the world.
I try to move around a little bit. If you stay one place, nothing ever happens.
That's true. You become stagnant and you don't like that vibrations. I think as a result of moving from place to place, we get to learn a number of things. And like I indicated before, when it comes down to the entrepreneurial capacity, I mean, not just you, but your entire family seems to be involved in that capacity right there. But before I get into that, can you tell us a little bit about who you are? Who is Mr. Andy Jolly? Give us a little background, probably your education, where you're raised and this kind of things there. Give us a little synopsis.
Well, everybody knows that I'm a son of the soil of Dominica, and I was born in Newtown. My parents my dad's from St. Joseph, Dominica, and my mom is from Newtown. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in Roseau. Went to SMA of all the SMA. Okay. I'm an SMA boy, convent prep at first, and then transferred on to SMA, and then did 1 quarter at Sifocol. They used to call it Sifocol. It's Dominica Community College. Okay. But they used to call it Sifocol back then.
Sifocol, that's interesting.
Yes. And then I moved across to the U.S., went to college over there, then university, graduated in pharmacy. I was lucky enough to have both parents be pharmacists. So my mom's a pharmacist, my dad's a pharmacist as well, and hence they talk at night, and they came up with a new pharmacist as well. So it's certainly
I like that. Talk at night, and they came up with
But
some people probably didn't catch that.
They probably didn't catch that. They
talked at night and they came up with a new pharmacist, which is you right there. Interesting.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's been a wonderful education simply because growing up with 2 parents who were both entrepreneurs and both pharmacists, I learned a lot. My dad taught me a lot of pharmacy, and which has helped me in my whole career. So I came back to Dominica and, worked in Dominica for quite a long while. Dominica is home to me. I love Dominica. It's a very interesting country, though. I mean, you have to have very thick skin to be here. And I did my very best. And for some reason, I was a little ahead of my class in terms of the game that we wanted to put big things together, and we were not ready for big things in Dominica. So what I did is, simply I had to move to a bigger playing field, So I went back up to the U.S. after I came back here for 4 years, worked for a corporation, a pharmaceutical corporation over there for quite a while. And after 8 years, I started my own business. And
pharmacy business.
Pharmacy business, yes, pharmacy business. And started opening businesses. And I've opened a business probably, I would say, every year or every 2 years. So today, I control about 17 businesses.
Wow.
All managed.
Different types, or is it pharmaceutical?
It's everything different. I think once you have a passion for business, you understand numbers. If you understand numbers, you understand the balance sheet, you understand what productivity, efficiency is, everything works out. It doesn't matter what you take over. you could take over a business that you've never heard of before. But if you can understand how to make it profitable, if you can understand how to make it work, you can do well in it. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think you have to go to school to learn several different things.
Yes.
And you know something that's strange in all my career, everybody that I've ever met in business didn't go to school to study what they're in. It's so strange. And some of them are doing better than the people who studied it or who are in it. So it's something.
But what do you think would cause that to actually happen, though? What do you think? Do you think it's an innate thing? Do you think that is something that is learned? I mean, for individuals out there who probably try to become an entrepreneur, is that something that you think is hidden within them? No, what do you think that is?
I think it's a simple thing in life. I think people come into businesses and they've not been in that businesses before, and they become game changers. So sometimes by being out of the box, you can see better than the people who are in the box. You see things that could work that they probably wouldn't have tried, and you see things that could be done in the business that might be profitable that they've probably ignored. So every time you see somebody changing the parallel of a business, that person is a game changer. They saw something in there that nobody else saw. They saw a different way to package it, a different way to sell it. And I think that's what we should start teaching to our kids in school. Whether it be in Dominica or worldwide, it's you can be a game changer. You just have to learn to think differently than the others. A lot of times we have people who learn everything by repetition or by recital, the exact same thing over and over again, and this is the way it was, this is the way we've done it. But we need to start thinking, what can we do different? How can we make this better? How can we make it more efficient? And all my businesses that I've opened, that is the exact premise of it. I am doing nothing different, but I figured out ways to do things that people didn't think about, or make things more convenient, make things more available, make them more accessible, and really give people a product that they didn't expect. So I think once you start thinking in that mode, I think you could take over just about any business, bring it to the table, and make it come to the top.
I think when you see it comes down to the entrepreneurial capacity in Dominica, it seems like people are just entering into it to make money, not necessarily to answer a problem of society.
Exactly.
And I think, but then again, when it comes down to Dominica,
maybe might not be the gold standard. But I think you're probably right in what you just said. But a lot of times we have accidental business people. People who were good at something, and all of a sudden somebody said, I'll hire you for this, and they realized that they could make money out of it, and then they went into it. But I think it's more important if we sit down and think, hey, here's a problem. How can I help people solve this problem? How can this make me money? I mean, we have a simple problem in Dominica right now. For instance, we have trash. Trash is not one of our big problems. I don't see anybody sitting down and thinking, hey, how can I make money off trash? One of the richest Chinese ladies that I've ever met in my life, who made billions of dollars, one of the richest ladies that I know, started making money because she started recycling cardboard. She would take this cardboard, recycle it, bring it across, make new boxes out of it, and then resell the boxes. And this lady started very small with this recycling of cardboard. All of a sudden, she went into recycling of metals. And then she went into recycling of plastic. And then she went into, and the company just grew and grew and grew.
But how would you put something like this into Dominica? Because sometimes when you look at how entrepreneurship works in different countries, they seem to have the drive, they seem to have the materials to do these things. But when it comes down to Dominica to recycle, we don't even have a recycling plant in Dominica. I mean,
but we don't. But one of the issues that we have is exactly how you're thinking right now. We always think Dominica is a different place, but no, Dominica is the exact same place. One of the problems we have is that we have regulators at the top that don't promote entrepreneurship.
That is the thing.
That is our big problem. But Dominica is no different than any other place. I'm going to tell you, you make $1 million elsewhere, you can make $1 million in Dominica. No, taxes are a little bit higher.
Do you think that is true though?
I think you can do it. I think you can carve out a market. If one of these days you figure out how to make gold from stones, you could make $1 million.
I agree. No,
because we have a lot of stones.
I agree with that. Probably using pearls or whatever.
Or whatever it is. Yes. But we have to figure out the way. So you can make the money
But
anywhere.
I think that is the problem, to figure out a way to do these things.
And that is the part where the thinking comes in. And that is the part where the resources, the thinking, the education, and really and truly that's what it is. But we also have a brain drain in Dominica because you notice that anybody who could do anything correctly in Dominica, first thing they think of, as soon as I can, I want to leave.
But can you blame them though?
I can't. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. I'm part of the problem. I'm the first person to say I'm part of the I'm part of the problem.
I am part of the problem too, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Whenever I have enough money to buy a ticket, I'm out, you know.
But why do you think that is though? Why do you think people want to leave? I mean, we always talk about the development.
I don't think people want to leave. I think you might have that incorrect.
What?
I don't think people want to leave. I think people love Dominica.
And I think they do
Dominicans love this country with their heart.
Facts.
I am going to tell you, if they could come back home now and make the living or have the living conditions that they have overseas, they would be here tomorrow.
And this is why there's a brain drain, because they want betterment in other countries.
Exactly. And we don't present that on the table. What we present is something a little bit more difficult and something, I would almost say for some of them, impossible. Because we don't invite them back. We don't make the environment conducive to them coming back here. We don't tell them. But people would come back to Dominica.
No, I definitely do agree 100%, because I know a number of persons living in Canada and the United States that actually came down to Dominica. I think it was during the time when the Prime Minister was saying that Dominicans would be flocking back to Dominica.
Yes.
You know, businesses would be booming and this kind of things there. And these individuals actually came to Dominica, tried their best, spent how much thousands upon thousands of dollars trying to develop a business in Dominica. And they had to leave whatever they spent here and go back.
That's true.
So doesn't that say that something is wrong with the system, or it is with the governance?
Well,
what do you think it is?
Well, the system is the governance, technically, because the governance creates the ideas or the environment for the system to operate properly. And if we don't have people who are good leaders that can make good protocols, procedures, pathways, opportunities for us here, then we're out of luck. I mean, for instance, look at I'll give you an easy one that could be fixed tomorrow if we want. Look at our banking system. Our banking system has been scaled down to 2 banks to do business with. How much competition does that present in the market? You have a business here, you have 2 banks. When those 2 banks turn you down, guess what? You're done.
Yeah.
Everything's over for you. So,
well, there's 8 bank. There's 8 bank.
Well, is 8 bank really a bank though?
Well, I don't know.
I've never seen anybody really get a good loan from 8 bank.
I heard that the Prime Minister put some money in the 8 bank for entrepreneurs, quote unquote, but apparently they seem to be having a lot of difficulty getting that money.
Exactly. Again, yes, you put something there, but you made the bar so high for people to get it, or you made the bar almost impossible for people to get it. So the few that tried came back and said, don't even bother.
Yeah.
And then again, what you get is another turn down or another disappointment. So again, what we have to do is have people who are willing to make good policies, good procedures, and foster the business environment. Business to operate in any Caribbean island, I'm just going to tell you what it needs. It needs some sort of subsidies.
Definitely.
There's no business that's going to operate in these small islands with the low population that we have, with the difficulty we have in terrain, with the economic situation regarding the freight,
port duty,
and all the other things. There's no business that's ever gonna get off the ground if we don't subsidize them.
But don't you think that, I mean, all what you're saying there, I agree with you 100%. But don't you think the government knows this? And if the government knows this, And yet still, they still put in these regulations.
Well, to tell you the truth, it's blatantly clear that the government is not a pro-business government. Simply because the government actually competes with the businesses in a large extent. And why has this come about? It's because the government wants to control so much. If the government would look at governing instead of controlling, we would have a better system. The government in Dominica looks at how can I control everything? How can I control construction? How can I control distribution? How can I control imports and exports? And it even goes to show, how can I even control the turkey you get at Christmas? Because
the ham and turkey.
The ham and the turkey. I mean, if I, as a personal business person, want to give ham and turkey away, guess what I would do? I would go to the local supermarket, whichever chain there is. We have a few of them here, and say, guys, I want to procure 100 turkeys to give away for the Christmas. And those people would send me back an invoice, and more than likely that invoice would have a bestseller on it. I would pick that person, and guess what I would do? I would say I want the turkey on the 15th. They would deliver my turkeys on the 15th. I would give them their cash, and guess what? I would then deliver the turkey. But the government doesn't do that. They say, no, if I want turkey, I get my own turkey. If I want this, I get my own. And
they get it from overseas.
They get it from overseas, or they get it from dilapidated sources. They get the cheapest, most unpopular brand that they can get, and then they go around and they give it away. And I'm thinking, why didn't you get it from a local? But our own government does not really believe in our local businesses.
But can we put the full blame on the government, though? Because if we know these things, I mean, some people might not know. Ignorance is bliss. They study right there. But if some people know this, don't you think that the people should demand better from the government? Do you think that is? I mean, sometimes we talk about brain drain. Do you think the brain drain has gone and the people are just taking whatever they get?
Well, I don't think they're taking whatever they get. I think it's been told several times, and I think it's been known several times. For instance, I'm going to tell you something here, and you can kind of judge. This will be a good story to bring this all back together. Dominica is one of the countries that eats the most unhealthiest foods imported. And you might ask yourself, well, why is that?
And it's an agricultural nation.
We're an agricultural nation. It's something that we boast. We're the nature island of the Caribbean.
365 rivers.
365 rivers. We want all our citizens to be healthy. And I remember some time ago, our PM came out with this mandate that he wants everybody to lose weight, eat better. Right? And this was right after Carnival, because he said, hey, I want everybody to be nice and trim and slim for the Carnival.
Because of what he saw.
Because of what he saw in the band, right? I don't know if you remember that. But I was like, well, great. But guess what? The problem is we have significantly high duties on foods that we import. So therefore, when you're shopping for food, you get the cheapest food possible because that's what you can bring in. Because keep in mind, anything that you bring into Dominica, it doesn't just have duty on it. It has freight plus freight plus the cost. And that's what we actually charge duty on. So if something gets here, it costs $5 to get here. Plus, it costs you $10 for that product. The duties are not on the $10 of the product. The duties are on $15 of that product. So
that's the additional amount it's on.
That's what it's on. So now it makes it twice as expensive. Now, if the government wanted, like several governments have done this, even in the US they've done this, they said, we don't want sales tax on foods. So therefore, they've reduced sales tax on foods. They said, hey, in order to keep our nation healthier, we don't want sales tax on medications or no taxes on medication. Therefore, nobody pays taxes on medication. So you find that a lot of educated governments around the world have decided in order for their citizens to live healthier, better lives, stay out of the hospital, which would reduce the drain on our healthcare system. Let's feed them healthier, and let's make sure that they can get medications or things that they need, baby formula, for instance, at a very reduced cost. So therefore, we would have a healthier society.
And that means more money in the people's pockets as well.
Exactly. But they blatantly ignored that. So our government is really not interested in us being healthier. Our government is really not interested in us being richer. Our government is not interested in us having a better financial balance at all. They've just totally ignored that with their regulations.
It seems like the things that they say don't necessarily manifest into action. Because it's not just about that particular part. We're talking about, eating healthy. We're talking about doing projects across Dominica. That to me is kind of crazy.
This is simple stuff. A lot of the stuff can be done by the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
Literally, if they decided here's something new that we should do, to go ahead. But our government has lost touch with the people. So therefore, the people are in one struggle, and then the government is kind of in a different branch.
An oligarch.
So exactly, and that is literally what's going on. And you could probably even go as far as saying, to some extent, that our government has not listened to the people very well, or has not taken care of the people. So you could go the further step and say, we now have a dictatorship.
But as you mentioned that day, something popped in my mind. Do you think that the government has listened to the people so well that it now knows how to manipulate the people into believing certain things where that they think that something is going to happen? This is one of the reasons why I always say that you should all have the hope of a labor right. Because for 25 years...
What is the hope of a labor right?
Because it's unwavering, bro. It seems to be unwavering no matter what has happened.
Yes.
I mean, I met some friends of mine who are supporters of the Dominican Labour Party, and they are like, I support my government. Oh, we finally have a chance to do this. Next election comes, they didn't have enough time because of this and that and this and that, and we will do it this time. And next election, they have another story coming up and making it so. That's why I always say we need to have the hope of a labor right. Now, with the essence of that, brothers, I think we kind of get sidetracked from what is really important. I think the government thinks that they are important and the people are their subjects. I mean, based on objective reality, that's what I'm seeing.
Maybe. My hope is we never, ever elect a prime minister who has a psychology major again. Because I think he's preyed on the poor minds of the people significantly. And it goes to show. I mean, I think the hope of a labor right, that's an interesting topic. And probably when you think about that, you can kind of see that that's a lot of false hope. But who goes into anything thinking I want to give people false hope? Who is that person? Who's that person? I mean, that person comes from a very dark place in their heart, thinking, I am going to trick you and tell you, go for that door. And I know when you go for that door, you are going to be punished significantly. Instead of telling you, no, go for the other door instead, where there's hope and there's grace and there's light, instead of darkness in the other door. So for a person to come from that dark area and think that is the leader that we have, that is a very, very mentally disturbing thought. I would hope our leaders are a little bit more educated than that, intelligent than that. But I will tell you, part of why I think the Labour Party has accomplished so little, it's simply because of the fact that they have focused more on elections. We've probably had more elections than we needed. To tell you the truth, Mr. Licks, if we never get another election, I'll be okay with it. Because every time we have an election, I see it as a waste of resources.
Yes, a lot of money has been spent.
We could have used for something else. In fact, I'm going to go back, and if you do a raw calculation in your mind, you will notice that there were probably, out of the 20 years that Labour was in power, there were 3 elections we didn't need. So those 3 elections were called prematurely. But here's what happened. When you call an election prematurely, you have to, one, stop everything you're going. You didn't get to complete your previous mandate. So if you had your entire 5 years, you would have done everything and you would have had something to show. But if you have to stop in year 3 and now you have to restart. Now you are now really focusing on a new mandate. And then all of a sudden a new mandate.
And then completely rejecting or completely forgetting the previous things that you were gonna,
Exactly. So and here it is, you're changing cabinets and you're moving people around and you're adding people in, you're minor. So now what we have is confusion. Because it's gotten so, I mean, like, we don't know whether we're going back or forth.
Yeah.
We don't know who's working, who's not working. There's some people who are senators and some people are not. I mean, I remember clearly when we were going to school, convent prep to be exact, we knew exactly who the Minister of Agriculture was.
Yeah,
They taught that to us in school. The Minister of
Social Studies.
They showed that we had to learn those things. We knew the names of the ministers. We knew the name of the
duties
the
as well.
duties of those people. Those things were hammered into us. I mean, right now in the education system, I am willing to bet my entire savings now that there are very few children that can recite who controls the ministries or even what the ministries are. Because the ministries have changed. The responsibility is not very clear on its ministry. And not only that, the people that are controlling them are very out of the limelight. So you don't see those people. If there's something that comes up,
and there seems to be no oversight
on any of them.
So they can do whatever they want.
If something comes up in agriculture, guess who shows up on the podium?
The Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister. Something comes up in education, guess who shows up on the podium?
As you said that day.
Financial, guess who shows up on the podium?
Reminds me of Kalibishi, when the situation with the school in the park and stuff.
Yes.
I mean, don't the engineers or the education minister, these people have to speak?
Exactly.
Instead, all of them were there,
Yes.
So not to say they were out doing something
nobody
else.
was speaking.
Only the Prime Minister was speaking.
Yeah. So
I find that very interesting.
But it seems like the Prime Minister is the spokesman, and they should really change his ministry. I think his ministry is the Ministry of Investment
or something.
Which we've had no
before.
Investment.
Yeah.
Well, we never had that ministry before, and we've never had any recent investment.
But how can you
Dominica.
be a minister of investment? What exactly are you investing in? Are you investing into the country? Are you investing in outside? What's going on?
I would actually like to see the clarification on his job responsibility. And nobody has that. But that shows you the type of person he is. He took something that is so unclear that nobody will be able to challenge him whether he's doing the work or not doing the work.
And the thing, before we continue, it's not on the merit of trying to say, we are attacking this person.
No.
Or it's about UWP or DLP or DFP. Dude. No, it's about country and what is actually happening in the country.
I am telling you, Mr. Lakes, I have people in my business like that. I have people in a couple businesses, I don't know what they do. I know they show up for work. They're walking all around, and you swear to God, they're running for election. They're talking to everybody, and at the end of the day, I'm asking, hey, what'd you get done? Oh, we got done so much. Because I don't know what they've done.
Maybe them running around is what they're actually doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're social butterflies. They're just running around, talking to everybody.
Sure everybody's fine and
literally. And they are the most popular people in the building. And you have to ask it, and every now and then you have to say, hey, what does this person do exactly? Do you know what they do? And they're like, I don't know. Can I find out for you? And I'm like, yeah, find out and fire them.
But that's what I think should happen when it comes down to Dominica. We have a number of ministers doing. Let me even flip that a little. We have people who are specialized in certain fields who are not working in this
that particular, which is bad.
Which is very bad because. And I learned this somewhere that it seems like when the government, the people at the top want control, they remove you from the positions that you have the capacity and knowledge for, and they put you in other positions so you can come to them for the advice of how to do it.
Exactly.
So it seems like that is what is happening or has happened in Dominica. When the Minister of Finance, who was the Minister of Health before, how do you link the two?
Well, he wasn't that much of a good Minister of Health anyway.
He got prizes and stuff from the government.
From the government. But keep in mind, this government is a very strange one.
Oh, yes.
Because I'll tell you why. The government is giving prizes for people in the government when we're the people who employ the government.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be giving the prizes?
Exactly.
So if things were good, then we should be giving them that.
We should be giving them the prizes.
We should be giving them the prizes, or we should be taking a vote or a ballot, some somehow to say, hey, you did a really good job this
that's
year.
crazy.
I want to give you Employee of the Year. You understand what I'm saying? But this is not how it works. We're working in a very off situation, which explains why our productivity is so lackadaisical. It's lacking. You can see
incompetence
because there's a lot of incompetence at the highest level, and not only that, there's probably very few people calling the shots. I would even go down to say one person calling the shots, but I know it's probably not one person. But it's just
the invisible
appears
people.
Exactly. It appears that way for a lot of reasons, and I will tell you, it's very, very disappointing, because I know anytime that happens in a business, and I run several businesses, like I say, my business will fail. Because I have to have several different levels of management. Not only that, I have to have several different levels of productivity, and I need several different levels of oversight. And what that does is that it builds a comfort level in me, knowing that if something goes wrong, which things always do, nobody is saying that everybody's perfect, but if something goes wrong, it's going to get noticed by somebody and fixed, or it's going to be brought to my attention for some sort of review on. So, but we do have some issues, and you know, even last week we had a problem, and I don't know if you saw it. The Prime Minister was talking at a conference, a press conference, and he noted that, well, we were building a tennis court. I don't know if you know where we're building a tennis court.
We're building tennis courts all over the place. I think it was just Postmortem.
No, we're building a tennis court in Roseau. Where
you building another
on
one?
High Street.
We have one in Postmortem.
Oh, you have one in Postmortem? Yeah, but he was complaining that the asphalt apparently that they used was not good. But here it is. It's oversight. How did we get to finish in the tennis court and notice that
we have the wrong material?
We have the wrong materials. Or it was done by the wrong contractor. Or you're not happy
done by the wrong
contractor did, or the contractor didn't have the skill level to do it. I mean, how did we get to the end of the project, and now you're telling us we have to go start the project again or redo the project, which takes twice the amount of funds
and more money, exactly,
but
and
when
time.
But when it's not your money, who cares? You know, if you have a bag of money and the bag don't have no bottom, you can do whatever you want. You don't really have to hit it the first time.
And this is not the first time these kind of things are happening. I remember when they did the West Coast Road.
Yes.
And then they uprooted the road for them to put pipes. I never understood that. But even coming back to your statement.
This just happened the other day. That happened last Carnival. Remember when they patched the holes on Bayfront? And then they closed down Bayfront so that they could repave the entire Bayfront.
So they was wasting money.
So it was like, why do you patch the road, you know?
Maybe that's where all the $41 million went.
But the Roseau Improvement Project. There you go.
It's done. It seems to be done because there's nothing else happening.
It's done.
But even on that merit way, where you need to have certain people it's not just about the competence of people. It's not just about creating plans for the competent people, but also having oversight
of the people.
The problem, I think, in Dominica is who exactly is the one who is supposed to be doing oversight? Isn't it the Prime Minister for the ministers?
I don't think the Prime Minister should be doing oversight. I think he should have somebody...
In an ideal world.
In an ideal world. I think he's doing it himself because he has to. A lack of competence. And but it would be very difficult, I think, in any system that is advanced or is moving forward, for the chief person upstairs to be handling the mundane work below. There should be better people over. I mean, even in a kitchen where you have the chef. Well, half the time the food's coming out on the table, the chef's not there. The chef is home already. But the chef sits and constructs the idea of the food, the plan. He is here working to make sure that you have the execution in place. But he's not there serving the food. In this case, our PM is literally serving us the food every day.
And he's supposed to be the oversight.
He's supposed to be up there planning for, hey, what's the next thing I can bring? How can I do this correctly? How can I bring this next investment? How many people should it be able to employ? Where can I get such and such from to bring it? How can I bring down the shipping rates, which is a big problem
Definitely.
in Dominica? How can I get our exports out more?
The
To which he's supposed to be out there taking care of these big things. And then the people below him, who is supposed, I don't know if we have a VP or somebody in charge. I think it should be Vince. Is it Vince by any chance?
I don't know.
That's
We just don't know.
So whoever they give the baton to, take control and roll with it, So we really should have that structure in place. But it's very clear to show that in his administration, there is no structure.
And that's why we don't know.
Yeah, there's no structure. And simply shown by the fact that he's chief cook and bottle washer. If you're chief cook and bottle washer, you don't have any structure, which means that you're destined to fail.
Then the question here is, what are the ministers doing? What are their purpose?
I don't know.
Because they're supposed to represent the people and bring the plight of the people towards those who can actually do something.
And that would be a good in an ideal world.
In an ideal world, but in Dominica,
that is not happening at all.
When people in Portsmouth, when the PAL reps of Portsmouth, I suppose the PAL reps, because apparently one go, they reset, the other one seem to be doing the same thing. So the PAL reps of Portsmouth, not saying that they probably don't have great ideas, but it seems like the great ideas probably have been dwindled by the people on the top.
And it's quite possible.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, in Dominica, what it means to be a PAL rep or representative is to have a car with tinted windows with a GA on it.
And escape from the people.
Done.
That's what I heard was happening.
In fact, the truth is that, I'm going to tell you this. If I was running this country and I had PAL reps working for me, I would not want them to have tinted windows.
Yeah.
I would want people to see them driving for the community. I would want people to recognize them and say, there's our PAL rep driving right now. Not have tinted windows and be hiding from the people.
But there's probably a reason why they are hiding, because they're not doing much or not much or anything at all for the people. And as a result, that can cause the people to cause some sort of frustration and then attack them, maybe.
I'm not a good politician. I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
And I can tell you frankly, the businesses that we control in Dominica bring a lot of revenue to the government. And I know a lot of other people have businesses in Dominica. I cannot tell you when last my PAL rep showed up at my business to say thank you. I cannot tell you when my PAL rep showed up at my business to meet the people that I employ. I cannot tell you when last my PAL rep showed up on my street at my home to say, hey, I see a pothole, I'm going to call and get that taken care of tomorrow. I cannot tell you when last most of us have seen a PAL rep. And I think the only time that I have seen a PAL rep come up, it's before elections to find out if they can put your name on a list. And even the mere fact that they've put your name on a list doesn't signify that you're going to get very much anyway. In fact, I don't want my name on anybody's list.
We have seen the evidence of this over and over and over.
Oh, yes.
The people are still in poverty.
Yes. People have put their name on the list and got nothing. And people always think to themselves that, oh my God, my PAL rep's here. I better fix myself because I'm going to put my name on the list, so maybe they're giving out something. And I'm just going to tell you, that's human nature.
But sometimes they actually give them something, though. $300, $500.
Yeah, but what does that do for you? I mean, that is similar to prostitution, if you have to ask me in some regard. There you are paying me not to do work for you as gainful employment, but here you are passing me off a bribe or paying me money to please you for some service that really I'm probably not interested in doing anyway. So you're buying my interest.
But don't you think that is illegal, though? I think that then again, we have to clarify what is illegal.
Exactly. I was just about to tell you that one of the things that we've done in Dominica is not make very clear laws. Most of our laws in Dominica, and most people don't understand why many people get away with so much. Most of our laws are antiquated. Most of our laws are from the 1960s. or even the 1950s.
18th centuries as well.
Yes, most of them are old British laws, and
slavery laws as well.
Slavery laws. We've never had really good governance to really update those laws. Very little attention have been paid to that, simply because, again, what are we going in for? We're going in to take care of the immediate things. We're not taking care of things and making ourselves righteous. We don't have a system for bringing ourselves up to date.
Adaptation.
We don't adapt.
Modernization.
And look, our government, again, not interested in it.
Yeah.
Look, we've just built a beautiful building, which is the financial center. But if you look at the financial center today, you would think the financial center has decayed more than a lot of other buildings in Roseau. And why is that? It's because it hasn't been taken care of. It hasn't been recently painted. The maintenance has a lot of deferred maintenance on it. The maintenance has been denied on that building. So our system is one that we love build new. But we don't love build maintain. We don't focus on that. So
that's a really good point. We don't build to maintain it.
We don't.
We build it or we have it. It's kind of like when the Chinese come and do a number of things and the building breaks down and then oops, you remember the roads that they built?
That's right.
They did the
All
entire
the hospitals, all the health centers that were leaking. You know what? All those things. We need to pay attention to that. So we don't have that idea in our mind that we're going to take care of things. And that's not a very good business sense, because when we invest in something, if I buy a car, I want to take as best care of that car as possible, because I want it to last me a significant time. I don't want to slam the door, keep it dirty, run it on a flat tire. That's not what I'm going to do with this car. I'm going to make sure that this thing is in the best condition possible.
But the question here is it your car?
Well, if it's not your car, you don't really care.
If it's not your car, you don't care.
You don't
which is
care.
one of the reasons why.
You don't
and
care.
I'm just alleging this right there. It seems like when it comes on to the Prime Minister is alleged to be associated to the French territory.
Yes.
I remember back in the day they were saying
there's
that
a passport issue.
Passport and all this kind
well,
of
he was
things
actually born in Guadeloupe, I believe.
No, but there's a possibility of that too. But we don't
know.
So the Prime Minister seems to be allegedly associated to the French territory.
Yes.
Melissa seems to be associated to Canada, the Canadian territories. Their children, except for maybe one, seems to be associated to the United States territory.
Correct.
So if you, and keep in mind, as a sitting Prime Minister, he made sure that his children were born
elsewhere. Yes.
So if we talk about the car analogy, if the car is not your own,
then why take care of it?
Is it that same thing that we are seeing with the economy of Dominica, or just Dominica on a whole?
Yeah, drive it until it runs dry.
And make sure
then
you profit from it.
And then when you're done, park it on the side of the road and see if you get a new one.
Yeah, and then the people who are the owners of the car would then have to go towards the car. But keep in mind, the people are the one giving you the car.
That's true.
The owners are giving you that car.
Very correct. So it's a very simple analogy. So if we understand human behavior, we'll see why this is happening. So it's not happening because, oh my God, something took over somebody spiritually. No, it's happening because that's normal behavior.
But I do think there's some sort of spiritual entity there. I honestly believe so, because you might laugh on this kind of thing, but there's some strange vibes, not just Dominica, but across the world. Sometimes you bring facts for people. You bring absolute. Absolute, means flawless, 100% accurate. You present it to them. They see it themselves. There have been a number of persons that have argued with me in Postmortem.
Oh yes, there's people like that.
And they agree. Can you imagine? These people agree with me.
Yeah.
And then they tell me, but still.
Well, there's an entire group of people.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't know if you've ever run into them. They're called the flat earthers.
Yeah. Oh.
Those are the people who believe the earth is flat.
Yo.
Right? Even though we've gone around and say, hey, the earth is wrong, and we figured out all the on the tree that has to go with it. And there's the flat earthers. Yeah. And they believe the earth is flat. And if you walk from one side, you can reach the other side. It's all a flat, level playing field.
I literally had an argument with an individual.
They're very dangerous too.
Oh,
they can.
I mean,
really...
I present everything. I say, give me one objective reality that you can prove that the earth is flat. You sending me a song.
Yes.
A song.
They're very dangerous people. I'm telling you. And they're out there, and it's a significant group.
So you think that's the mentality Dominicans have? They have a flat earth. They might not believe the earth is flat, but it seems like there's some sort of mentality like this.
I don't think so. I think people in Dominica want progress. I do believe the ones that want it more have found a way to leave. And I hope that one day we can make this country viable again for them to come back in.
But before you continue, do you think that people should leave?
Well,
based on how the economy is, do you think they should leave?
I'm going to tell you, everybody has a different situation. And I cannot tell people to stay in an environment that is not conducive to their health or to their financial health either. So I have to tell you, I believe in the maximization of efficiency. And I'll break that down for a lot of people.
Yes.
I want everybody to do the best that they can. I want everything to work at the top speed that it can. I want everything to be available to its maximum potential. So when I walk into a business and I see something that is not working properly, I say fix it right away. Every door is supposed to work. Every door is supposed to have a key. Every light bulb needs to be turned on. And it's the same thing you probably do with your equipment. You know, if your equipment gets broken, guess what? You're either going to fix it or replace it.
Yes, that's true.
And I believe in the maximization of health. And I believe if Dominica is not suited for you, you should leave. Go somewhere else where you can make a difference. And then whether it be maybe you can send money back home to your family, or maybe you can help your family better, or whatever you may want to do, come back here on vacation and spend the money. That will help the country. But I don't think you should just sit at your home and die in poverty, or sit at your home and mope around and be useless to the environment. So I tell everybody, maximize your potential. Whatever your maximum ability is. If you can work 10 hours a day and do it, work 10 hours a day and do it. Don't work 8 because somebody told you to work 8. Work 10. So I have a different philosophy, and I think a lot of people share that philosophy. You know, recently I was in St. Lucia, and half of St. Lucia is Dominicans. And you go to places like St. Kitts, Antigua. More Dominicans there than everywhere else. You go down to Grenada. Lots of Dominicans down in Grenada. You go down to Barbados. Lots of Dominicans in Barbados. So again, here it is that we've carried the rest of the Caribbean.
And before you continue, keep in mind, this is Dominicans who were in Dominica who left. That's correct. Not just they were, you know, they have parents or something. But so I think that by us carrying the torch, it represents this country well. I will tell you that the few that have stayed here behind to work, it makes it a lot more difficult for them. So they need the support of everybody else out there. But I think if you have the ability to do something better, please do it. I think so too, because even we speaking on this thing, if I never left, none of these things that you see in front of you would
happen.
None of these things.
We learn things.
I always give that example of me. I worked 8 years in Ross. And I didn't have like a rent and this kind of things to pay, but I mean, I still had some sort of bills and stuff. But I worked 8 years in Ross and I saved up $40,000.
Nice.
That is absolutely phenomenal for Dominica.
In
the hindsight of things, though, when it comes down to, let's say I want to have a family and this kind of things that is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, even like I look at things right now. I mean, I buy houses kind of like how I buy underwear. Every week or every 2 weeks. I'm buying something somewhere.
One day I'll be like you.
There's a deal going on somewhere, and if there's not a deal, there's a process for a deal going on.
No doubt about it.
So there's something going on somewhere. But I'm going to tell you, I look at it and say, how are our youth going to be able to afford a house now?
Yeah.
Because it's quite expensive to build and it's quite expensive to buy a home, and land has gotten significantly expensive. So I look at it, and I don't look at it for me necessarily, because I have a home. I have beautiful homes that I live in, but I look at it and say, well, how are the younger generation going to do it? How are they going to be able to take on the responsibility of doing that if they don't have the resources? How are they going to be able to come in and make a difference? And one of the things that we don't look at very well is that if we don't make a very good society for them, or if we don't make the society available for work for them, then we will not get any social security. Because these younger generation are technically the ones that are going to fund our future. So we have to try to really fix things now in order for even us, the older people that are moving along, to have a future.
Yeah. But you mentioned resources, and I think resources is a vital part of, a people and elevating. But it's interesting that, in Dominica, we actually have the resources.
We have a ton load of resources here. We have
more resources. Imagine
here.
People in Antigua, I think one particular year, I think in 2024 or 2023, Antigua was considered the nature isle.
Yes.
Because of the amount of individuals who come into Antigua. Antigua's resources is its beach.
That's
the
it.
white sand beaches. Dominica has white sand beaches, Calibishi. We have black sand beaches. And we have brown sand beaches.
Underdeveloped. That's the problem.
And
that's the difference. That's why we do not get the 4,000 people that land in Antigua.
Yeah.
So you have to remember, we're on exactly. But we never took the time to develop these things. Most of them are hard to get to. Most of them are unavailable. And I'm going to tell you, this is something that I want you and your viewers to really focus on. And this is just generally speaking, because I'm in business.
Yeah.
Imagine somebody coming to Dominica in a wheelchair or walker. What do you think that they could go visit? Which bus do we have in Dominica that is going to get them on the bus and take them to visit which site? If you were in a wheelchair or walker, which site would you go visit first? Please tell me.
At least thank God the aerial tram, quote unquote, is coming.
Oh, it's coming still.
It's coming.
But it's not here
remember,
yet.
we had the aerial tram before, but that's
a whole other story.
It's not here yet.
It's not here yet. And we don't know what the roads look like for the aerial tram yet.
And then we're talking about the passageway to go as well.
Exactly.
I tell you, it's a whole bunch of...
So let's take a look at these simple things. So most of the people who are elderly are the ones that have the money, the ones that can travel. Which part? When are you getting off the cruise ship in Dominica and you have yourself a wheelchair or one of those motor scooters, which are the most popular ones these days? Literally on the boat, they tell you don't get off. There's nowhere you can go. Because when you drive out, just on the bayfront, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Simply because there's no space for these ramps. There's no ramps that you can use these motorized equipment on. So let's start to think about these basic things.
But that's just the tourism aspect, though. I mean, for us to really push, because tourism doesn't bring much.
What about the people who live here that ain't walkers, though?
That's another story as well. We have to
Let's
organize
not
the
ignore
roads. We always tend to be talking about the outside folks coming in because they bring us some sort of monies, even though the Dominicans themselves participate through taxation, all those kind of things there. But we always seem to focus on them. But I mean, if you're looking at how we can develop and make things better, I mean, that should be something that should be on the forefront of the individuals who are in charge of these things.
Yeah.
But remember, like we stated before, let me put this on me, the camera on me, not on me. The people who are ministers who are supposed to be doing things are not doing them.
I don't think they consider those things. They don't really understand those things. they ignore them to some extent. And I see them all the time.
Do you think they have the foresight though to see these things? And
I think they have a foresight, but I don't think they have good advisors. It's not the implementation. Implementation is very easy if you have the map work or the diagram and the plan to say, hey, here's exactly where we should put this and where's exactly where we should put this. You know, I mean, but we've had a lot of lapses. I mean, we've had several chances to do really good things, and those things haven't come about. So my main goal, I think, when I look at a business or a business place, is to make sure that we have proper procedures in place. And then to make sure people are following those procedures, and then you're going to get a good outcome. Of whatever
and then you have to scale the outcome to see how well you can improve on it as well.
Exactly. And then you also have to have somebody going back up the line, because very frequently in Dominica, we have somebody going from the top to the bottom. We never have somebody doing a postmortem. Okay, the project is over. Let's review that project. We were supposed to spend $100. We spent 90. We saved 10. Or we were supposed to spend $100. We spent 120. Crap, we're over budget. So we never have somebody going back up. Well, where did we go over budget? We hired this person. They charged us too much. We didn't cater for such and such, but we added it in. You know, so you need to have somebody going down the line, but you need to also have somebody going back up the line to see if there were any mistakes or things that can be corrected for the next project, or things that you could make better for the next project. And we don't have that at all. In fact, several of our projects that are done, nobody has ever reviewed them. They've said, hey,
even the budget.
The budget. No. We shouldn't even talk about the budget. That's what was on my
mind all the time when you were speaking.
We should say the inflated budget. But even the budget, we have not had somebody review the last, I would say, 10 budgets that we've had.
Because we make the budget, we put it forth, we put the estimates. Then next year, apparently nobody knows how the money is spent. There's nothing of that sort. We just see
nobody knows what it's spent on.
Exactly. And then sometimes when the budget, for example, I remember seeing the office of the Prime Minister had a certain amount. I can't remember if it's 2023 or 2022. One of them years. And that skyrocketed probably like about 2,000%.
Yes. And nobody looked at it. Nobody looked at it closely.
But it's the people's money that is being spent. And nothing is being done to have some sort of...
But I think the government has systematically done things to reduce the visibility of those products that they put forward. The budget gets done. There's no budget oversight committee. There's no budget review committee. There's no budget reconciliation committee.
Nothing.
All these committees need to be in place. And these things need to operate independently as well.
Exactly.
Because if, for instance, the budget reconciliation committee says, hey, guess what? We found something. You don't want it to be a hush-hush situation. You want it to be brought to the attention of the people. But we don't have those committees here. All those committees have been numbed down or dummied down to some extent. So they pretty much know what they're doing, and it's being done purposely. So,
and in the public's face too.
Well, because again, I mean, when you're in control and when you believe you have absolute control, you can do anything. There's means for corruption. Absolute control breeds corruption.
Exactly. And not just breeding corruption, but also targeting people's rights as well. Because we've seen what is happening. For example, the situation that took place in March 19th. Apparently now is when the Bar Association decided they're going to put out a thing, even though the entire world put out their stuff long before. But if you look at what is happening, and let's say there's something wrong, and what I notice is happening is that the government seems to be targeting the people and targeting the people's rights to do a number of things that they don't want them to do. For example, we have this whole thing happening with electoral reform. We know what is happening with electoral reform is not a true reflection of free and fair elections. Because a number of things are happening. They want to say this and that, and there's no consequence to these actions or to the policies that are put out, which I think should be necessary. If we're saying that we have to go on the radio and we can use the state-owned media, You're saying that you shouldn't pay a fine if you turn down anybody during that time. No consequences of that. Nothing at all. So when that happens, they are infringing on the rights of the people. They are stopping the people's ability to protest, even though the Constitution gives right for people to assemble and all those kind of things there. So they are literally not just stopping the people from having the freedom of expression to truly do. They're going after
prosecuting them.
Yeah, they're prosecuting them, and they're going after the very thing that people need to be protesting against. So what would be the solution for this?
Well, I don't think there's a solution, really. We've seen many times where our Prime Minister Skerrit has weaponized the law to use against the people or to get his way. He's done that in several cases.
Yep.
I mean, we can go back years and years, and we've seen him actually use the Dominica police force as his own. And, when he goes out, it's obvious that the Dominica police force is his because he has 20 men around him. Which I believe there's no need for all that security. But
before you continue, I remember being part of the November 3rd celebration, Independence Day. And for the very first time, this actually shocked me, man, because when I went inside and I looked around the park, there were people dressed in black all over the park and even around the thing. Yeah. So maybe the Prime Minister is scared or something. I don't know.
Well, the Prime Minister, whether he's scared or not, or whether he's overcautious, that speaks to his mentality. But there's no need for all this overproduction.
It seems like he knows that he's doing something wrong.
Well, no, it's just a waste of resources. I think we have a Prime Minister who's very wasteful. And it shows in just about everything that he does. Whether it be the clothes that he buys, the vehicles he transports himself in,
for his children.
The house that he lives in, very lavish.
Yep.
He lives a very lavish lifestyle, and the way that he operates in terms of his spending. He just lives a very, very loose lifestyle in terms of that.
And on the backs of the people.
Well, again, it's not his money, so he's not paying for it.
If it's not his own.
And not only that, I mean, here it is that you have a Prime Minister that decides, well, guess what? In addition to using the people's money, I would also like a raise of 30%. And nobody else should get a raise as big as me because I am the best.
Prime Minister, I'm the best.
Very
I'm the
nice.
king.
Yes, I'm the not king. I don't think.
But the thing is, we don't want to call it king, but that's what we say.
I don't think he reigns in any kingdom. There's no blood there.
No, but I mean, when the Prime Minister comes out and goes to a number of countries and then tells he's not coming out until his son reaches.
I think
that sounds like a king to me.
That sounds narcissistic.
That's definitely true.
Narcissistic is the word that I would use. The blood of royalty is a very pure blood, and Mr. Skerrit does not have it in him. Royalty is very different. Royalty is very humble. I don't know if you've ever noticed. When you look at people like Prince Charles, or even how Diana was, or even the young prince that we have that decided, I don't want the kingdom. King Harry and his wife. These people tend to be very respectful, very noble, and they care about people. So royal blood has this sense of humanity, and I don't think Mr. Skerrit has it. Narcissism would be the
tyrant kings, though.
Well,
those who overthrow.
There are tyrant kings, but Mr. Skerrit is not even a tyrant king either. A tyrant king would be one that would rule mighty, but tyrant kings also have an obsession with their surroundings. They want their kingdom to be the best. They do not want anybody. They have this royalty about them even, and he doesn't have that. He does. I mean, if he had the royalty, the tyrant king in him, he would fix the road at Mont Daniel at least. But if you can't even fix the road at Mont Daniel,
that road is terrible, true.
And you're just like, hey, my house is up there, I don't really care. Then you don't have a tyrant king. Tyrant kings tend to be, I want what belongs to me to be the best, and I want everybody to, you understand, recognize me as being the best. but he doesn't have that in him.
Yeah, he doesn't have that
So
at all.
he has a lot of narcissism in him. I
Yeah.
think if you look at Mr. Scarrett's trade, what sticks out more than anything else is narcissism.
And I just want to remind individuals out there, we're not targeting Scarrett. We're not
Oh,
targeting.
no.
We are pretty much stating what you yourself can clearly see.
Yes.
So when people want to say, people talking about, no, it is what is evident out there. A number of persons always tend to watch my Mr. Alex, you don't talk about this and don't talk about that. I say, why should I talk about this? They don't even have a reason why I should talk about it.
Well,
you talk about what is happening in the place, what is evident.
But here's the thing. I mean, I'm going to tell you why his name comes up so often. I mean, here you have it that you have a country, Dominica, that is so beautiful, that has so many natural resources. We're positioned well in the islands because we are right about the center of all the islands. We have great soil. We have great rainfall. We have amazing sunshine. In fact, we shouldn't even be paying an electric bill. This whole country could probably run on solar.
Yeah.
But here it is that you have a gentleman who comes out and said, I run things. Or you have the gentleman who comes out and says, I am the world boss. And then
that doesn't show humility at all.
Well, no, it doesn't. But if you claim to be these things, then the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
When I walk through my businesses, I tell people I'm the owner. I am the manager and I'm the CEO. So they know if there's a problem in the building, it's because I have not chosen to address it. And when I walk through the building, I'm going to tell you, whether there's a piece of paper on the floor or busted pipe, if that does not get fixed, I take personal responsibility. So if you want to be in charge, or if you want to say you're in charge, then there's the assumption by the people that you are actually in charge. Now, if you're not in charge, exactly. If you're not in charge, say you're not in charge. Says, hey, it's not me over there. That person's in charge. So then we can now go to that person. Like, you know, the garbage situation. We had a press conference and they asked him very clearly. They said, hey, sir, we have a problem with garbage. And he said clearly, he didn't say, well, let me refer back to Mr. So-and-so, and I'm going to call him right now and see what the problem is. He started off and gave us a definition and said, you, the people, are the ones who are not using the garbage correctly. You, the people, are the ones responsible for the fact that you have garbage by the side of the road. Not the fact that the government doesn't have trucks or the government doesn't have employees. He says, what you should be doing as the people, you should be doing...
redirecting the blame.
Exactly. So here it is that you are saying that this is our fault, so obviously you must know more about it, so you're in charge. But I think what needs to really go on is that we need to clarify what we are going forward. I think Dominica has no clear direction. We right now in 2025 do not have any goals. Our country does not have any goals. We don't know where we're going to be. From its present leadership.
Because I remember having this conversation with Dr. Thompson Fountain.
Yes.
And some of the things that he was saying sounds like something that needs to be happening yesterday.
Exactly.
But we still have some catching up to do when it comes up to that regard right there.
But we don't have any clear goals. I think if we had, if somebody can show me a very clear mandate that we have for Dominica, I would really appreciate it. And when I talk about a clear mandate, Mr. Licks, I'm talking about, here it is that we decided that we were going to fix all the roads from Roseau to Portsmouth. And in the next 2 years, which I think election is probably due in 2 or 3 years,
if it's
whatever
not called
it
in
is,
June.
Whatever it's called, right? All the roads from Roseau to Portsmouth should be fixed because that was on the mandate. And I beg everybody to go back and look at the Labour Party manifesto that was done a couple years ago. And it said these are all things that we were going to accomplish. And then let's sit down with a yardstick and see how many of those things have come to fruition. Because you will see that there was very little done on that sheet. And if you even go back a couple manifestos back,
I think we can go all the way back.
Well, you don't want to go all the way back. I mean, that's a futile effort. We just need to go back 2 or 3 of them, and when we notice we're not checking off the boxes, we're not going to waste our time.
Repeating itself over and over. Yeah, so
you understand? And many people have come up to me and said, "Well, do you think our Prime Minister might be delusional because here it is that the same things that was on the manifesto 3 times back is still on the same manifesto, and there's a lot of repetition involved in whatever is being done to say it's being done, but it's not being done. Do you think that there's a problem?" And I said, "No, there's no problem. I think what it is a lot of confusion." And
you say confusion amongst whom?
Well, confusion in his elected official party.
See, I don't think there's confusion, though.
I think there's lots of confusion.
You know why I say this?
Tell me.
I think it's willfully being done.
I
honestly think it's willfully being done, because you cannot tell me 10 years ago we knew we had to fix the road. Today we're bringing that back. 10 years ago we had to organize the waterfalls, make sure the waterfalls were flowing, whatever. We haven't done it yet. We're bringing it back this time. That is like 3, 4, 5 elections later. And you tell me that is confusion. I don't think that is confusion at all.
Well, it has to be
confusion. I think it's willful.
Because I'm going to tell you, if it is willful, and I hate to think it's willful, I don't think that's a good thing.
It's not.
I would prefer it's confusion, because I'm pretty sure that the PM is quite a bright person. He used to be a teacher, right? Although he doesn't have much love for teachers. I actually noticed that teachers are down on his list. For a man who used to be a teacher.
Very
and the same thing I think with Dr. McIntyre. The man you think would be a doctor and would think, hey, if I had to send more money, I'd send more money to the hospital. He send the least money to the hospital. But I'm going to go back and say, if he's a pretty educated individual, and therefore he's quite learned. So therefore he's reading these things. And at some point in time, if you read something on the, if you're reading a book on the page before, sounds like the page you're reading, I think you would pull up your head a little bit and say, "Wait, didn't I just read that over there?" You understand what I'm saying?
So you think there's some sort of mental problem when it comes on? Because
I don't know. I'm not by any means capable of diagnosing anybody. But what I'm saying is that if the page before looks like the next page, and then it looks like the next page, then why isn't it coming to his attention?
That has to be some mental problems.
You know, why isn't it come to his attention?
If it's not, you've seen this page, it's the same as this one, and the same as I would agree with you on that mentality when it comes on to confusion on the mental
side, right?
It has to be.
So
the other party's intention, because you cannot tell me Dominica has received the most amount of money it has ever received in its entire life as a result not entire life, but as a result of present history, because of CBI.
But we have the least amount of production from that money.
And that is what I'm saying.
But you don't have to go very far back. Most Dominicans don't remember this. But 25 years ago, we started to look for thermal power, right? We were going to build a geothermal plant, right? And which is a good intention. I love it, because I've seen a few of them in action. I have not seen ours in action as yet. But 25 years ago, we struggled and we said, this is what we were going to do. 25 years later, we've not lighted a bulb.
Not a bulb.
But if we had said, okay, we're going to do a geothermal, and then we're going to put solar to back us up, which we have so much sunlight. Man, the sun here is so harsh. I mean, when the sun hits your skin, you know it's a day outside there.
Definitely.
But we are not harnessing any of that power.
You know what I think it is?
Neither has the government made any incentives for anybody to come in and harness that power. In fact, to my knowledge, I know that there are several people who were willing and committed to come in here to open solar farms or add solar to homes, and they were turned down or not given a license by the government.
But you know why I think that is? I think the government's main thing is not necessarily to cater to the people. because remember earlier we were talking about tour. We always focus on tourism. Why don't we focus on the people, wheelchair, whatever, access, whatever. But when it comes down to the government, it seems like there's some sort of neglect.
But why neglect? If I want to open a business here and I came with a business plan to put a solar farm, I'm going to buy the land, I'm going to now generate the power, and then I'm going to feed it into a system that can earn money, but would be cheaper.
But that's the point.
Why would you not allow me to come in and do this business?
That's the point, though. Because there's neglect on what they're doing it for.
But we're doing geothermal.
They're doing geothermal, not for Dominicans.
For who?
They're doing it for the outside people. That's the whole point of geothermal.
So we're not taking care of our people.
Exactly.
We're taking care of everybody else.
You cannot tell me in a land that has so much sun, wind,
we don't
and
harness
water,
anything.
We could have hydroelectricity.
We hydro, yes.
We
have waterfalls.
Waterfalls, all these things there. We could have solar farms,
turbines, wind turbines,
all these things.
Yes.
None of that.
Salisbury, I'm going to tell you something. If I could harness the wind in Salisbury, I'll become a millionaire tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
because
a lot
Salisbury
of wind.
has a lot of wind.
Yes,
I mean,
true.
if you ever pass for Salisbury, Salisbury has
especially
wind.
in the heights. Yeah, definitely.
Right? But we are letting all this go to waste. This is why I'm very, very confused when we do not take advantage of this normal resources.
Yes.
We don't even pay attention to them, but yet we focus on taking loans, or we focus on borrowing, or even worse for me, that our prime minister focuses on begging the other nations for money to subsidize to keep the citizens of Dominica going.
Poor.
The poor people of Dominica, we're never poor.
Nope.
We are a proud people. And for us to have a prime minister make us into beggars,
that's something else.
that would reduce our mental capacity. That is an insult.
Yeah. And keep in mind, Dominica has a lot of resources that we have not tapped into. All we have is potential. Can you imagine?
Just potential.
It has the phrase, the saying that goes that there's a lot of potential. The most amount of potential you find is in the grave.
Yes.
Because the people have not utilized the potential to actually create output. That is the same thing that is happening. I remember this struck individual saying, don't you feel like 25 years of your life has just gone down the drain, Papa Buji? I remember, and I could see it in his face. And it gave me chills, I tell you.
Well, it would. It would.
That is present reality of Dominica.
And I think what's happening is our government is literally turning away investors simply because they do not want to participate with the government. The government has a very bad reputation. If I came here with my basket of money in my hand and I said, here's the thing, Mr. Lakes, I am going to open a business. My business will employ 1,000 people. I'm going to tell you, there's a chance that the government of Dominica will turn away this business.
Bro, that has happened. You don't have to use example.
Over and over again, simply because the government, they'll be like, oh, well, can we share your basket of money?
Yeah.
Or can you do this for us? Or can you do that? And it's like, no, I don't want to do it for you.
Yeah.
I want to do it for the people.
The people, yeah.
And every time, people like that get turned away. And hence the reason why I believe Mr. Skerritt has chosen the office that he has chosen. Because anybody who has to make an investment in Dominica
has to go for him.
Therefore, everything comes to his plate. And he now needs to make the decision. But you know what's happening? A lot of stuff's on his plate.
Yeah.
But he's not paying attention to it. You know why? Because he's the Minister of Agriculture.
He's the Minister
He's
of
the
everything.
Financial Minister. He's the Sports Minister.
He just has people holding his positions, but he's the main one.
So everything sits on his plate.
Yeah.
So all our investments for Dominica are probably sitting on a desk in the ministry.
And then nothing is being done. Time is being wasted. And when time is wasted, that means less money comes to the people, creating more poverty.
It's been ignored.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time, you know why Dominica is not progressing? Because our gatekeeper is keeping the gates of Dominica closed.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that there. You gave an example. Let me give you a real life situation. The situation that took place, well, this is alleged. Let me just put alleged.
You always have to put alleged these days because nothing is really true.
Yeah, nothing really true.
In fact,
even though it might be true, but it's alleged.
Keep in mind, we're not selling passports anymore.
It's alleged.
Alleged. I don't know what we're doing with them.
Just like it's alleged that Dominica, they gave everybody the 25% amount, saying that is everything. Alleged. And then European Union came down and said it's 4 times more that was sold outside. They alleged.
Well,
but the situation with the school, the Indians came from, it's alleged that the school, remember the Indian school was coming? It's alleged that the government wanted more.
Yes.
The Indian school did not even know how they getting students in, if they're going to get the right capacity to come and meet, even break even. But it's alleged that the government wanted more. Here's not an alleged one, though.
I think it happens so often, more than we would like to think.
Yeah.
So we have a very bad gatekeeper. I would have preferred if somebody else would hold the Ministry of Investment. I don't think the person that has it right now is doing a very good job.
Yeah, not at all.
Very, very poor job. In fact, the truth is that, and this is the truth. There's been over 100 businesses that have closed in the last...
Yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah. Yesterday I counted 158 and people in the comments were giving me more.
158 businesses that have closed. Now, if you were the Ministry of Investment, how would you let those businesses close?
Yep.
Or why would you let those businesses close? That would be a black mark. It's almost like saying, I am trying to get new business, but the old business is running out the back door. So if I were the Ministry of Investment, I would be trying to control the business running out the back door and get that under control. And then I would go get more coming into the front door. But all we have right now in this current climate is stuff going out the back door. So more businesses are closing and more businesses are going under, and nobody is paying attention to them. This is why I tell you from the beginning of this podcast that we really do not have good ministers. We have very inefficient, incompetent ministers, simply because after those businesses close, or while those businesses are closing, nobody has ever stopped by them and say, hey guys, I notice your revenue is going down. I notice your VAT is going down. I notice that you're ordering less. Is there anything I can do to help? So therefore, we can say, hey, maybe you need a tax holiday. Hey, maybe we need to decrease the duties on such and such products. Hey, maybe we need to help you promote your business a little bit more. But there's no attention being paid to that.
There's no compassion.
There's no compassion.
I remember I was having this the last podcast I was doing with the quote-unquote white Rasta Iguaye. I'm not sure if you saw that.
I saw that one.
And he mentioned something that was so profound. I never thought of it that way. It's about the compassion.
Yes.
And if you're showing compassion, because the people put you in positions to do things for themselves, you have to have a level of compassion. I think Dominicans and the individuals overseas need to understand this. If the people that you are voting for do not have a compassion for your well-being, because they can have a compassion, you know. But if they don't have a compassion for your well-being,
they will never do good.
They will always falter. They will pretend.
I think instead of compassion, what I see more from the officials here, and even sometimes from the civil servants, is entitlement. They believe that this is owed to them, or they believe that this is theirs because of their status.
That's
so
true.
Entitlement is what I see here more in Dominica, not compassion. I'm going to tell you, I personally drive a company vehicle. And I'm going to tell you, the company vehicle that I drive, I literally take better care of it than my vehicle. I'm going to tell you, I have seen so many of the GAs, which are company vehicles, and those things are driven horribly.
And it's not just you saying this. We have actual evidence of this. Remember the police bus?
Oh yes.
The police bus that they had to try to keep slamming the door over and over and over. And then some of them, it was a brand new one. Well, one appeared to look brand new. and apparently something was going on with the battery or something,
Yes.
and they had to be pushing it over and over.
Well, and then look at the garbage truck.
Yeah.
On the bayfront. What about that? How does that? My vehicle has never. I mean, so there is there's not a lot of care taken.
Yeah.
In terms of those things, and I use the vehicle example here, but you also have to use that example in just about everything, other setting as well. So the compassion and the care that's needed is not there.
Non-existent.
Instead, there is this level of entitlement that is way beyond. So
that's why the government will tell you, if not me, who else?
Well, that's a dumb thing to say. But
just like even going back when it comes on to the economic standing,
Yes.
if not VAT, what else?
Well, you know, the economic standing on this country has been an absolute lie. And as you know, again, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
Quite passionate about business. I know business very well. And I think to some extent, this is why when people get out of Dominica, they do so well in business.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because this is the harshest, climate that you can possibly deal with.
If you can make it here.
Anywhere. In fact, they should change that New York song to, if you can make it in Dominica,
you can make it here.
any island you go to. You go to New York, you make it, it's like a breeze.
And that's facts, because there are a number of persons I grew up with in Dominica. And if you see them today, you would never believe that from Dominica in poverty. You would never believe.
They were wearing underwear with holes when they left here.
Some of them didn't have underwear. They didn't have underwear.
And look at them now.
One of my friends, she lives in Virginia. She came from somewhere in Dominica. And her family was not her father. She raised up with her father, and you know, one thing her father always pushed in her to always try your best. The father used to do farming, and then you know the whole thing went down south and under the
administration.
And then she left. She got a chance to go and study. Her father literally put her through school on her these things. Right now she's sustaining him, so he doesn't need to work, nothing like that. I went up by her. I think just before COVID. I went up by her, and let me tell you something. That girl, she's in charge of some big business stuff thing there. And I went by. She literally tells me every time I come to America, if I want a car, she'll send it to me. Yeah. And all I have to do is bring it back, or I can come for it. Drive it.
Yeah.
She just does it because she wants me to come.
No, it's true. Any one of my friends that come to the US, if they come visit me, the first I get them a car, I get them a house. Yeah.
And I tell you, where she came from, bro, to what she is today,
it's different.
It's absolutely impossibility becoming possible. Yeah. Because where that girl, I get goosebumps right now. Yeah. To tell you where that girl come from. And it's not just her, there's several of them.
But if you had stayed here,
nothing would happen for you.
Nothing would happen. And we have a climate here that could be set differently. And we have so many things that should be done differently. And I think our political leaders recognize that they should be done differently. But I know exactly why they don't do them different.
Keep the people down.
Well, I don't think they do it to keep the people down. There's a lot of inefficiency in this government. In fact, I'm probably going to tell this to you from my experience. There's more inefficiency in this administration than there ever has been in any other administration.
Yeah, I agree.
In fact, if you wanted to see a minister before, you would walk up there, sit in the office, and you could speak to somebody.
You could go at his home. Rosie Douglas, people used to go at his home and talk to him.
Talk to him. This government, the level of inefficiency, the paperwork, the fact is how long you have to wait for anything to get back to you, where it is, when it gets lost. I've had paperwork lost before by this administration. Yeah. So we need to look at that and see. Then we have an unreasonably high level of taxes. Here as well. And I am not, don't get me wrong, I am not against taxes. I think you need,
I am against it though.
But I know.
I am.
I know. But I'm not against taxes if they're being used efficiently. Does that make sense? If you are collecting taxes for a worthy cause, or you're collecting taxes that are going to a good cause, I'm not against it. Because you're using my money to develop my country for my citizens or my neighbors or for me myself.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But we're collecting an unreasonable amount of taxes. However, we don't know where any of that money is going. And not only that, we don't know how efficiently it's being used as well.
So you can weigh the output of it.
So that is what bothers me more. And Dominica is set up, as I said, anti-business. The first things that where you walk in through the gate, any business, you get taxes. I mean, we have duties on the customs. And then you get to your business.
Except the Chinese, I heard, allegedly.
Well, allegedly. But then you walk through your gate, and then it's taxes upon taxes upon taxes. And we are literally being overtaxed. The amount of taxes that we have, including VAT, the income tax is still around. You have
Extra
Social
fees.
Security. A lot of our small fees here are compounded. And for the people who don't know what small fees are, departure tax. Literally 1/3 of every other island. Our departure tax in Dominica is
high.
is $90.
Very high. Yeah.
Departure tax in St. Lucia, $30.
Yeah.
Departure tax in St. Kitts, barely nothing. You know, all our fees.
But that's why I'm saying that the government is willfully doing this thing.
I don't
you
think
can't tell me the
don't-
government doesn't know that it's taxing the people high.
I don't think they pay it. I don't think they know.
So you think they pocket it? Allegedly?
I don't think they pay taxes themselves, so they don't see it. So when they travel on our money. So
that's true.
it's nothing to them.
Yeah.
Whether they pay $10 in St. Lucia or they pay $100, it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
They're
It's the
traveling
people
on
paying
our
for them,
dime. So they don't recognize it as a strain on the people. Because what happens is that they're not using their wallet. The only time you notice something as a strain on you is when you're
doing it yourself.
Yeah. And then you notice it. If your car is driving and you're getting 10 gallons per mile, you will notice it.
Yeah.
Because you'll be like, wow, I'm spending a lot to get 1 mile.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody's car you borrowed, you're like, hey, let me just stop. When I bring back for them, they'll fill the gas and
they'll pay for it.
They'll pay for it.
Everything. So
none
you
of
don't
my
care.
business, you know. So I think we're overtaxed here. I do think that the government has to look into seriously decommissioning some of the taxes that we have, whether it be VAT. I noticed that the Domlec added some new taxes. The Wasco added the $15, $800, and what was it? Some other figures there. But everybody just feels the need to add the taxes in.
But the thing is, the people don't complain about it, though. So why wouldn't they?
I think they do complain about it, but I think it falls on deaf ears. Because if you as a government minister own a business and you were paying that extra $800 to the Wasco, you would see it in your back pocket.
Yeah.
You understand? And I think what's generally happening is just the people's pockets are being eaten away at.
And that's why
more people
I do not side with taxes.
Well, taxes, again, like I said, taxes are something that happens in every country. You can't prevent it.
Well, not every country.
Well, there's very few countries that don't pay. The only
Middle
one I
Eastern
know
parts.
of is St. Bart's. St. Bart's, the rest of them don't pay taxes.
Saudi Arabia and
Saudi Arabia, yes, they have money.
The reason why I say I don't like tax, because I think tax makes the government lazy.
Well, it does.
Because
or lazier.
Back in the day, when I look at the United, one of the things I like to do is follow a number of countries and see where taxation came in. When taxation came in with milk in the United States, 2%, and the people were rioting about that. Today, they just accept everything and so forth and so forth.
But
before, and I think that's what Trump is trying to do. People might disagree with him, but I agree with him on that merit right there. Put your people first. Why should I be telling my people they work hard, 9 to 5.
That's right.
And then you telling me that I need to take 15, 20, 30% of their monies back to the government. That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense.
Not just that on your salary, then they go to the shop. I would understand, okay, you want to tax the goods, number of goods. Yes. So don't pay income tax. When you go to the stores, that's where you pay them. Because you work hard for your money.
Exactly.
Another problem that I have with taxation is, back in the day, before taxation in the United States, they used to do tariffs and a number of things like that. God bless Dominica if fruits and all sorts of things, and
natural
all
resources.
we need to do is find the markets, not just selling the product, the produce, but the fruits and vegetables. We can create products from these things. We can create medication out of these things, and then send this out there to a number of markets. We have it. It's like invisible. God has treated invisible money, as I call it, because we don't have to be working to make the fruits grow.
No. We have the soil, we have the light, we have the rain.
We provide a little fertilizer, whatever. Let these things grow. We pick this stuff, and then we produce the outcome of it. That is what I think should be happening in Dominica. Not we saying, we're going to tax the citizens who work hard for their money. Sometimes the people taxing people that don't even have money, you know.
Well,
remember when the government was saying about trying to save $200 and people complaining that they cannot save it, so you moved down to $5 now.
Listen, 5 plus 5 is 55.
55, exactly.
So it's no longer $200. But the whole idea of that, we would have had to go in a different direction. And if I may say so, and hindsight, some people will say, is always 2020. Some of that money that we used with these massive hotel structures that we're building, maybe we should have made feeder roads for the farmers. All that concrete that we're putting into all those buildings. I mean, we have one in Picard right now. That we said we were going to make a Hyatt. That's been, 10 years at least? Yes, that's been 10 years.
Oh, yes.
Easily. And
probably 15 years.
And the amount of concrete that we spent and put in that thing, we could have made lots of feeder roads for farmers.
And Dominica is an agricultural nation.
It is.
So that's what we should have looked at firstly.
People would have ventured into agriculture if we had made those available. But our agriculture is dismal because we've turned our schools away from agriculture in Dominica. And we've said, no, what you need to do is go technology or go be a bookworm,
which is not a bad thing.
Or be a scientist, which is not a bad thing.
But what does Dominica need?
But we have to understand we need people to grow the soil, to people to go ahead and toil and to make these things happen as well. And we haven't catered very well for that. Our programs that we have in our school lean so heavily on the bookwork, they do not learn. And I'll give you a good example. What happened to our good masons? What happened to our good plumbers? What happened to our good carpenters? Where did all those skill education levels disappear to? They went aside and everybody says, no, I want to be academics instead of doing these vocational skills. So we have to get back to the board and restructure everything if we want to have a brighter future. If we don't do that right now, things will be very bad for us, because when all those academic things disappear from us, we will not be able to eat.
I think one of the biggest mistakes in education is actually removing TED Talk and these kind of things.
Oh yes. Because even home ec.
I mean,
right now, try to find a girlfriend that cannot cook with without a microwave.
That's true.
I mean, the first priority for most young men when they're looking for a girlfriend. You have to be able to cook.
And thing is not just for me you're cooking for.
No.
If we have to have children, you're supposed to be able to cook for the children.
Family coming over for a celebration. I mean, very few young women know how to cook very well right now. Or even take care of a home. Or take care of their kids.
Children,
You understand?
That's why I have a lot of craziness happening when it comes on to the next generation.
It happens. And who is going to foster that sort of lifestyle? Who's going to foster that sort of environment? We have to make that happen.
It starts in the home, but it's also be at the head as well.
Yes, we've made some mistakes in our school, and we need to get back to our basics.
I think places like Barbados, I don't understand. the other Caribbean countries seems to be going back to where Dominica used to be. Barbados is looking to go into trade. They're not looking, they are already doing it right now. So they get on their people in schools for them to do trade. St. Vincent.
Grenada is on board.
Grenada is on board as well. St. Vincent is going into agriculture.
Yes, St. Vincent.
Not going.
St. Vincent is big in agriculture.
This is why per capita they are higher than Antigua. You know that?
Oh yes.
St. Vincent used to be last in the Caribbean.
Second largest economy in the Caribbean right now.
Something else.
I mean, you have to keep those statistics in mind. You have to know that these people made a change along the way that has brought them to prosperity. And again, like I said, goal-oriented. Can Dominica succeed? Everybody asked me that. I said yes. Dominica can be one of the most successful countries in the Caribbean.
You say one of, I think it can be the most.
Maybe.
Because Dominica has all the resources that the rest of the Caribbean islands have.
We have the resources to feed the entire Caribbean.
And by the world by extension, or at least the Western world.
We sit on a country with 50,000 people. On the right, we have Guadeloupe. On the left, we have Martinique. Both of those countries have at least 600,000 people to feed. But yet, here we live in between two good countries, which obviously owned by France, but we live in poverty. How is that possible?
And it's like when you just take a boat and go next door.
It's totally
you're
different.
Wondering, it's like it's a different world that you're in.
Totally different world.
How did Dominica falter so much? I grew up in Picard.
Right next door, you have freeways. You have people who have super. God. You go to Martinique, the malls, the super malls are there.
We don't have to go that far. I grew up in Picard. Picard was the city of Dominica.
What happened to Picard? What happened to Picard?
40% GDP disappeared.
I don't know how that happened. In fact, to tell you the truth, I was listening to a program the other day, and I think once, and this is probably goes all the way back to freedom, I'm going to tell you, and I don't know if you know that, I think Patrick John wanted to make Portsmouth a free port.
Yeah, I've heard that. Heard that.
And Damien Jr. Charles, had a big problem with that, and I think that's where the whole political rally started off. But imagine if we had made Portsmouth a free port, kind of like St. Martin. We would be booming today.
Of course.
So Portsmouth again has a lot of potential.
Too much.
But then again, here is a good example of what our government does. Our government takes the potential of Portsmouth and creates Cotton Hill Village. Which should, if you had given that to me, I would have made the absolute best condos and suites for rich people. And I know everybody don't like rich people, but rich people
bring money.
would be in Portsmouth enjoying Purple Turtle waterfront. Instead, you made Cotton Hill and gave a bunch of poor people a housing up there.
No, don't get me wrong. I think what they did when it comes down to giving persons houses is not necessarily a bad thing. I do think that giving people's houses because you kill the economy is not a good thing.
That's what it is.
I think because you have both factors there.
Or you gave them the best spot. I mean, that place could have taken a huge hotel. It could have taken a huge
But I would not have put another hotel there.
Well, not a hotel.
There's a one right there.
Yes, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not into that one hotels.
That wasn't.
I am just saying that nice level.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Could have so much potential, but instead they built Cotton Hill on it. And I'm not against giving people houses, but can we choose a better spot? I mean, can we choose something more
and it's right by the beach,
It's right by the beach.
I understand what you're saying.
So we have to kind of watch what we're doing with planning. We have to watch what we're doing with even Roseau, the city of Roseau. Roseau has gotten, I think, out of hand. In fact, the truth is that I'm just going to go on a limb because I've traveled to several of the Caribbean islands and say Roseau is probably the ugliest city in the Caribbean right now.
It used to be the best.
Roseau is the shanty town.
Yeah, Roseau used to be. Remember our Bayfront used to be back in the day.
Yes.
With the waterfront thing.
The waterfall.
They just took all this out and put tents there. I call it the ghetto tents.
Yes, I think Roseau is now the ugliest city in the Caribbean. Yeah. And you can probably quote me down for saying that. And I know some people will say, hey, that's just your opinion. Yeah, it's my opinion.
It's your opinion, but I mean, you can wait on the fact and see.
I've gone to Grenada, St. Kitts,
St. Lucia.
St. Lucia, go down to Rodney Bay. I mean, it's totally different.
Rodney Bay is what Postmortem should look like.
Rodney Bay is what Postmortem should be.
So that's very sad. But that's what is happening.
We wasted a lot of potential and a lot of time not creating the structural changes. And although I'm going to tell you, I'm not here to fault anyone and say we did nothing. Because we did do a few things, but the few things that we did were substandard, and the few things that we did were not enough.
Yeah.
We could have done a lot more.
Oh, yes, a lot more.
And when you think of, and I brought this to the attention of one of my colleagues the other day, when you think of an administration that has been in place for 20 years, and you can equate it to a business. Yeah. I'm running a business for the last 20 years, and I still haven't gotten it right.
Yeah.
Or still
something has to be wrong.
Cannot get it right.
It's like retarding growth.
That says a lot. That speaks in numbers. Yeah. So we have to get it right.
Well, I think the way to get it right is to remove the people that are keeping it stagnant.
Well, I would hope so. That might be a good solution, or have them step down. Because if you cannot do a job, why wait to get fired?
Well, that's true. That's true. Step down yourself.
Step down yourself.
But maybe the monies and all these kind of things that they see that they get in without any sort of hindrance or blockage, then why would you step down?
I don't think it's the monies. I am going to tell you, our Prime Minister was a teacher before that. I don't think he can go back to that job. Many of the ministers that currently have jobs today, I don't think they could possibly go to any other job.
But because they've seen the money, though.
I understand. But what I'm saying is that if they had to get out of the position that they were in today, what job would you see? Like for instance, if Mr. Roosevelt Scarrett lost his job today and he had to get a new job, what would he go back into?
Well, at present, he would be the opposition leader.
I know, but what kind of job? We're talking a real job. We're not talking. Politics is not a job. Politics is a service. And I think the people that are up there see politics as a job.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But here it is. I'm telling you, what type of real life job would that person go into?
Well, what would Scarrett get into? I don't know.
Doesn't that bother you a little bit? These are the things that I look at. You're
right, because
when you look at it, Miss Denise Charles, what would she go into? What would be her job, her next job?
She be a janitor. because if you look at her accolades, it seems like everything that she's happy to be a part of is what other people have done.
Yeah.
Bringing in, what do you call that, American Airlines, United Airlines. Is because of these people having extra planes. They want to do things and want to expand across the Caribbean. Yes. That's why. And then you come in and act as if you were the one who were negotiating these kind of things.
Yes.
And what? No,
it was handed to you on a plate, and there you go.
Come in and pretend like you. So what is your skill set?
Yes, there's a lot of other people. I mean, out there, you have to recognize and ask yourself, if you just go through the ministry, you understand, and ask yourself, what would these people do if they got out of the position that they are in right now? What would they do? And I don't even think, if you go as far as even probably deep. Dr. McIntyre, I don't even think he'd remember how to sign a prescription for you.
But that's what you're saying there is really, really deep. I don't think you probably know, but I don't think you really understand how deep that is.
It is. This is good thinking.
Yeah. It's like, what would you do if you're in the country, you're running the country, if you lost that position?
Today.
What exactly would you do? Or what can you do? What would you even want to go back into?
So this is why they're in there to take as much as they can right now, because there's nothing left after this. There's no.
So they will maintain and fight to keep that position.
Exactly. There's nobody I know in that ministry that could ever get a good paying job. And not only that, like you mentioned, even though you could find a job for them, question is, would they do well at it?
Oh, you did psychology, I suspect.
A little bit.
A little bit. I can tell. Philosophy, not psychology. Philosophy in that regard. Because the depth of behavior is as a causality of something that you've done before.
Exactly.
And if you cannot do what you're doing at present, what makes you think? It's like the elevation. We move from step 1 to step 2, step 2, step 3, step 3, step 4. If you jump from step 1 to step 5,
then
you have the incompetence of all the other steps. And you go at step 5, you lost that job.
You can't come back. You can't come back to step 4.
You cannot. You have to go back to step 1. And then
you also have to ask yourself, keep this in mind again. And this is something that a lot of people don't really understand.
Yeah.
Most of our political leaders, including our Prime Minister Skerrit, when they came in, they had very little. They didn't even have a car. Now, all of a sudden, you become a minister and they give you a GA, a brand new car. Tinted windows,
all these kind
mag
of
rims, free gas.
Yeah.
When it's time to get out of that, what do you go back to?
Especially when
you go back to taking the bus. Do you see our elected officials going back? I mean, technically speaking, Mr. Roosevelt Skerrit doesn't own a car. Do you see him taking the bus on Vacaz bus stop?
Yeah.
Or on Mont Daniel? Well, I don't think you'd be leaving Mont Daniel. Technically speaking, it's not supposed to be his residence.
Yeah.
But how does that happen? How do they go back to normal life? Most of those people cannot go back to normal life. So they have to fight to stay where they are. This is the only thing that they're capable of doing, and they're not even very good at doing it.
But a thought just came to mind, and nothing is wrong with that, with the understanding of not trying to go back. But at least in your present position, start doing things.
Exactly.
That will make people want to keep you there.
Yeah.
But instead, that's one of the things that I believe is happening in Dominica right now. I think Dominica wants majority change. Majority of Dominicans want change. The problem with that is the government has the ability now to just go across the world and pick up people, because I think they removed the 5 years thing. So you can just go across the world and pick up people to come to Dominica to come and vote on your behalf, thus tilting the scale. I think Thompson Fountain pointed that out, that 5 constituencies were tilted on the understanding of about 240 people.
Well, they are. I mean, like everything else, you have to understand that there's a lot of scheming that go on. And if you have to look, a lot of people don't know this. The government, this happened in Calibishi last week. If you don't know, I mean, I don't think you're on this news as yet, but literally the government was up there giving passports to residents for free. So all you needed to get a passport was to bring in your birth certificate, and they would literally help you fill out your passport form and get a passport. Why? Because there it is that we're conditioning people to vote. So we're making them eligible to vote. And while that may be a good thing, and I'm not against this, but they should have made that
society
publicly known for everybody, not just their members alone. You understand? So a lot of things are being done hush-hush. The government is also secretly going through the colleges as well and targeting the youth as well. Hey, guess what? You're going to graduate. You'll be 18. Are you eligible to vote? Let me put you down on my list, because if you're on my list, maybe you can get a scholarship or maybe you can get a job.
And that's what
So literally, the government is recruiting very heavily. So our funds and our time and our monies that should have been spent on running the country and producing a better society for people like you and me are being spent right now to recruit people for voting to keep our government in power, which is wasteful, which is not what we sent them there to do. If the government wants to stay in power, all they have to do is do the work that we sent them up there to do. Help the businesses. Right now, most of the businesses in Roseau are struggling. There's a few of them that are getting by, but the few that are getting by have made investments a really long time ago. But the government is the biggest leech that we have in Dominica. They need to figure out how not to be a leech. In addition to the fact that the government is getting all this so-called money from CBI, here it is that the government is also sucking the lifeblood out of these poor businesses as well. So
like
you
adding
can
more fees on them. And this kind
exactly.
Of
So you can see this is not a very fair scale. And a lot of people tell me, "Hey, Andy, why don't you go out there and talk to the businessmen and tell them what they should do or tell them how they should do it?" And I tell people, it doesn't make sense if you explain to somebody what to do, but they don't have the climate.
The system is keeping them.
Exactly. Or the procedures, or they don't have even the incentive to do it. If you're going to work all day and come home with $1 in your pocket, it's not worth it for you. You don't want to go to work. You want to make it big.
Remember Bright and Creamy?
There we go. Bright and creamy. We need to. We got to look at rehabilitating all these markets. We have to look at rehabilitating Portsmouth in terms of commerce. We have to rehabilitate Grand Bay. We have to rehabilitate Roseau, Salisbury, Marigot. Those places need to be looked at and said, how can we get more businesses in there, or why are businesses failing in these areas? And we need to really stimulate the economies so that we can bring back a good middle class.
But how do you think that will happen, though?
Regulation. We're over-regulated and overtaxed in Dominica by far. They have to bring down the taxes. But you have to consider...
Or have tax days like St. Kitts does.
I don't think they can do like St. Kitts. We have a prime minister that lives a lavish lifestyle. So
on the backs of the people.
The backs of the people. And when I talk about a lavish lifestyle, I talked about it earlier. The suits that he wears,
his wife wears as well.
His wife is quite elegant. Let's put it that way, and quite needy as well too. By the way, she is the representative for Roseau Central, which absolutely nothing has been done for Roseau Central for the last 10 years.
But nothing has been done.
How do you have a representative for Roseau Central that doesn't even walk in Roseau Central?
But that's what I'm saying. They have the representative. They know that the people do not support them. So they bring people from overseas to come and vote for them to keep them in power. This is why when people saying, I'm not voting, or these people, I saw a post with somebody in the airport walking with a suitcase and they say, election's going to be called. Let me take my suitcase and go. I already know how things are going to turn out. No! If you're in Dominica and you're feeling the pressure, especially those who feel the pressure, you need to go and vote. You need to go and vote. You're not saying,
you need to be a participating citizen.
You don't want to participate. If you know how much people told me that they're not voting because scared the LP can win again. Can you imagine all these people going to vote? How bad that would tilt? 240 tilted 5 constituencies.
Well, it has. But you also have to remember that the people are being punished to some extent.
That's true.
Look at the lavish lifestyle that our prime minister lives. He lives in a huge house. Cost us about, just for the rental of the house, 64 grand, and then there's probably another 5 to 10 grand in there for the maintenance of the house, the housekeeper, the services, lawn care, etc. That is due to that, right?
It has been indicated that he takes about over $120,000 per month.
Well, about there, right? But keep this in mind. We have 64 or 65,000 people in Dominica, which means that every month, that amount, all those people are gone out of their pockets. Just for one person to live. The 65,000 people are living significantly below their means.
Very much.
And here it is that he uses all this money up on just himself. So how is it that you expect Dominica to prosper when you have the use of so much resources on one person.
But this is why that very person needs to go.
Well, yes, of course.
And remember,
the system
they would
needs
not
to
go just like that.
But he cannot go, because here's the problem. Everybody else below him is following suit. So he built a mansion. The next person below him wants a bigger mansion. And then the next person below him wants another mansion. And now everybody in the cabinet or everybody of the elected officials says, look at how he's living. I want to live like him. So now everybody's in there looking out for themselves. So the whole idea of the politics needs to go. People,
the whole system
needs to go. So no longer can we see this as self-generation. We need to put things in place to say, this can no longer come back again. The system where you go in there and you enrich yourself, and you say, hey, I am big chief, so therefore I need the biggest and the best.
Yeah.
Right? That system needs to disappear.
The entire system.
Not just the man that needs to go.
Yeah.
The whole system needs to go where the people take back the power.
And keep in mind, the system runs deep. The whole judicial system has to go. The education system has to disappear. Just name it.
Yes,
because there's always roots. There's
a lot of bad roots in there. So we need to rethink things again. The question is, where do we start? I mean, like everything else.
But I think. Well, then again, you ask yourself, where do we start? I think the starting point is getting the individuals who are creating that system, the root of it, getting them out. But then you have to weed that out. Plus, you have to weed out all the other individuals who have trickled down through the system itself.
Exactly.
And then you have to go after the people.
Yes.
Because if the people have been conditioned, you see why they're going after the schools to make them think, oh, you get scholarship, this kind of thing. There's a mindset that is being developed.
There's a whole culture right now that the youth don't want to work for anything. Because they've seen mommy or daddy get handouts.
Begging for stuff.
Begging for stuff, and they've received it. So we've set that whole precedence. So therefore, even though you take off the man, I'm afraid that the culture will still exist.
So the entire culture has
so we have to. It's almost like how you run your company. If you notice, one of the things that they talk about in companies more is the culture of the company.
Yeah.
Culture. What's the culture of the company? Why do people like coming to work? Why do they like to work here? How does it feel when they work here? That is what they really talk about. The bosses of the company, some of them never see them. Yeah. But they want to talk about the culture.
Because they have created a culture.
So we have to focus on the culture of Dominica. Yeah. Not on the leaders. The leaders are useless. The leaders have set us up for failure. Yeah. But our culture has changed.
But I do think that you have to root out.
You do.
Because they are the real root of it.
They will cause it to persist. Yes. If you don't take that out at the hand, they want that to grow. Yeah. And then after that, you have to start changing the whole thing.
That sounds like a lot of work that's coming there.
Yes, it is very deep. Work. It is very deep. It's deeper than that.
Why?
You know, and
that is
it puzzles me that here it is that we have a country that's struggling, but we have time and patience to get nails, wood, and red flags
and stick them up.
To stick them on the post and posters. Let's not forget the many posters. Too many posters. But I was thinking, you know what? We could have bought a garbage truck. Yeah. Or maybe we could have bought something else we needed. Yeah. But it just goes to show that our priorities and our goals are not set very well. So anybody wants to know why we're not progressing is because we don't have the right goals set up. We are working against ourselves. We're literally going in the wrong direction constantly. What we need to do is figure out, get good advice, and turn it around. So that's just my take on things.
Yeah. Bro, let me tell you something now. We could stay here whole day. I'm not gonna lie.
Could.
And there's a number of things. I even wrote down a set of things.
Well,
and we touch a few.
We could go for lightning. We could go for a lightning round.
No, we will do that. We do it another time because we already passed the 2 hour mark.
Oh, geez,
right?
It's been 2 hours already. It sounded like we started 5 minutes ago.
That's to tell you when the vibe is there, you just engage in a nice conversation of what actually is. It's not necessarily putting your own personal take. Yes, you take your personal take, but you're looking at objective reality. And I think that is something that is very much missing in this present day and age. We tend to look at objective reality and just forget about it because that's how I feel.
That's right.
Now, in conclusion, do you have anything you want to say? Well, what do you like to tell the people out there, especially those who are involved in the entrepreneurship world?
Well, it's a good thing to be involved in because my mindset is if you develop anything, even though it cannot sustain in Dominica, somewhere we'll find your investment or somewhere we'll find your development useful. So never get discouraged by what you can do. And I'm going to tell people I probably wasn't the smartest kid in school. And I'm probably still not the smartest kid in school. But one of my visions was always to go out there and do the best that I can with whatever I have. Never worry about it. And to really have that drive in your belly. And keep it alive, keep it going. People will recognize it, even though the people that you are around today don't. Somebody will.
But that sounds like it's outside, pushing people outside. And I agree for people to go outside. What about the entrepreneurs in
Oh, no, it's the people in here. I'm just saying, if you can do it in here, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to, it has to come from inside you first.
Yeah.
And let
The
it
passions.
shine. The passion will shine. And don't get disappointed or discouraged by people around you that are pushing it inwards.
Yeah.
You have to let it shine. Somebody's gonna see it. Whether they see it today or tomorrow or next year, keep pushing.